see if we can figure out what's going on with this problem. I think I actually know where you're running into issues. And it's because the way that they're having you actually enter the equation is different from what we did in class. And this may happen from time to time because it depends on who programmed the question as to exactly what the way the question is going to be presented is. So what we need to do first is we need to put the square feet, which is your x value, into list 1. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to go over to list 2 and we're going to enter our cost in dollars. And then you always want to make sure of 2 things. You want to make sure, number 1, that both of the lists are the same length, and they in fact are. And then you want to scroll back up through the list and make sure everything's paired up the way it should be and that all you've entered in is correct, because there's no point in coming out with answers that you did correctly and yet it was based on faulty data. So we need to make sure we enter the data table correctly. So we'll go through each one of these. And notice here that even though I entered the correct values from the table, it's only showing you 1.25 in the evenings times 10 raised to the 6th power. But if you actually put your cursor on that value, it is showing you that it's 1,246,758. So it retained all of the digits that you gave it, but it can't show you all of those digits. And that's going to happen from time to time. Okay, looks good. Hope I didn't mess up. And it says to create a scatter plot for this. Now, this data table shows us the annual prices of 20 commercial leases, and we have those 20 pairs of information in our list now. It says all these leases provide office space in a Midwestern city in the United States. And they want us to create a scatter plot for the annual cost of the leases on the number of square feet of leased space. And does this pattern seem linear? So we're going to go second, y equals. We're going to go to the first plot, make sure that it's turned on, make sure that scatter plot is chosen by choosing the scatter plot where it says type, and then you press your down arrow key to get to the X list, which we put in list 1, and your Y list, which we put in list 2. And then leave the mark at the little square box. And at this point, we're going to check one more thing. We're going to hit y equals, make sure there's no equation in y1. Then we're going to hit the zoom key. And because we're making a statistics scatter plot, we're going to go to zoom stat. Zoom stat looks at the data that's in your stat plot here and sets up windows that will fit the square footage for the x-axis and the cost in dollars for the y-axis. And just a little note aside, you can also use zoom fit when you're not doing scatter plots to find graphs of equations. So don't get those two mixed up. Right now we're doing zoom 9. And you can either scroll down and select zoom 9, or you can simply press the number 9 on your keypad. And so notice here we have a very, very linear scatter plot. It is very, very tightly clustered. So at this point, because if we actually look at it in Pearson, then we'll be able to see it without this data table that I have up there. Now notice that on our window is going from right at -6,000, which I'm actually going to change that to 6,000. To, looks like about 90,000. It says 81, but we'll go on up to 90,000. And then our X scale, looking at these two, number one, we're looking at the x-axis right now and seeing that it makes no sense to let this be the x-axis because that's the cost, that's the output. The cost depends on the square footage, not the other way around. So actually, we can eliminate graph A and graph D right off the top. So we're somewhere between graph B and graph C. And their x-axis goes from 0 to 90,000. So rather than going down to -6,000, we'll just start at 0. And they are obviously counting this off by 10,000s. And then our Y minimum value needs to be 0 because the Y minimum on both of these are 0. And then their Y maximum value, and this is in thousands of dollars, so they're going to 1,500, but I'm going to go ahead and go to 1,500,000. And now we'll hit graph. And our graph is pretty much identical to graph B. So we choose graph B. And then it says, does the pattern in the plot seem linear? And of course, yes, it does. Yes, because the scatter plot shows an approximate linear pattern. And then estimate the linear equation using least squares and interpret the fitted intercept. Be sure to include the units and complete the equation for the line below. Now notice here they have estimated annual cost in dollars. That is your y-axis. And that's equal to a constant number here plus another number, which is going to be your slope, times the size, which is your x-axis. That's not the same order that the equation we're going to get the calculator to give us gives the equation to us. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and hit stat and go over to calc, and we go down. Now we're going to go ahead and do number 4, linear regression, and I'm going to show you how you can switch that up if you need to be able to put the equation in correctly. So you do linear regression, and I'm going to show you some extra steps here that are not absolutely required, but I think it'll help you to see these extra steps. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to tell it where are the x values, and that's going to be the x values are in list 1. So that's second and 1. Then move up to the comma, and our y values are in list 2 here. So notice that we're going to go second and list 2, comma. And then this is the step that's really going to be worth it to you. When you get to after that last comma, I want you to go diagonally from the stat button and you see a vars key. Press your vars key. Press your right arrow key to go to the y vars. Press enter to select functions. And these should look familiar to you because they're the same as the y's on the y equals menu. So we're going to select y1. Now that we've done that and we hit enter, notice that mine doesn't tell me about r and r squared because I'm not really interested in your paying much attention to those values, and I won't ask you about those on a test. This says that our equation has a slope of 16.3833 and our y-intercept is 2753.817, and remember that value is actually in thousands of dollars. Our window is in thousands of dollars. So we're going to have to interpret it that way very carefully. Now, if you press your y equals key, now you see not only is your plot on, but you also have the slope and the y-intercept. So in this case, it says to round these to 3 decimal places as needed. So if I round these to 3 decimal places as needed, then I'm going to go out here to 1, 2, 3 decimal places. I'm going to notice the next decimal place is a 3, so that means I'm going to delete the rest of that number. Be careful you don't delete the X though. And then 2753.817. The next digit is an 8, so I'm going to round the 7 up to an 8. And then delete, 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 delete. And then we're going to graph. And notice that line is a perfect fit to that data. So that means this line is our equation of best fit. But notice that the slope of that line goes in front of the x, which is the size in square feet. So we're going to enter in 16.383. And then on the cost, we're going to enter in 2753.818. And it says, interpret the fitted intercept. Notice that if the estimate represents the largest extrapolation and is something, interpret the fitted slope. If it represents a large extrapolation and is consequently not reliable, select the correct choice below and round to 3 decimal places. Okay, it says the slope is how many square feet per dollar. Well, that's not the way slope works. Slope is going to be dollars per square foot, not square feet per dollar. So we're looking, the slope is dollars per square feet. So the slope is 16.383 dollars per square foot. For every 1 square foot increase, average prices increase by 15.383 dollars. And then it says if a business decides to expand and wants to lease an additional 7,500 square feet beyond its current lease, explain how it can use the equation obtained to estimate the increment of the cost of its lease. Select the correct choice below. Okay, what it's basically telling us is that it wants to lease an additional 7,500 square feet. And that's going to cost us $16.383. And I just noticed that I typed that in wrong, and that might happen to you too, so be careful about that. So I'm going to take that $16.383 and multiply it by my $7,500 per square foot. And that tells me that I'm going to multiply the additional square feet by the value of the intercept. No. Multiply the additional square feet by the value of the slope. Yes. To find the increased cost of the lease. So it's expected to increase by $122,872.50, basically $0.5. And let me check the answer to make sure that we're all good. Oh, it tells me that's not correct. Try again. So let's see. I want it to show me the right answer. Okay, so we got okay. These answers are actually correct. And this is one of the reasons that I wanted to do this problem with you. This one actually is my fault because I forgot to type in my 16.383, not 1.383. So that was my bad. If this happens to you, I'll show you what to do. And for some totally ridiculous reason, they have decided that on the last one that they wanted a comma between the $122,000 and the $872. Now, I would give you full credit for this question. I wouldn't expect you to miss the question because you forgot to put in a comma or because you accidentally left out a number. So what you would do in this question then is you're going to close that box. You're going to hit question help. And I need to go in there and add ask my instructor to that because that's not there yet, so I'm glad I did this. There's going to be a choice that says ask my instructor, and actually, obviously, someone did. So click ask my instructor and say, I actually had the correct answers on these. I typed something in wrong, as I can see here, and I typed something in wrong there. This is what I actually got. Would you please check this and give me full credit? And at that point, I can give you full credit for the problem.